Restorative justice is a process, a strategy where we get wrongdoers and victims of wrongdoers to get together. And once they can get together, we have no doubt the relationship is restored. And that is why it has been so successful. We have, in the past 3 years, opened 2 centers in Denham Town and Tivoli. And you will be amazed at hundreds, thousands of cases that have been settled in these 2 fairly volatile communities. Believe me, the Member of Parliament, Desmond McKenzie, the leaders in these communities tell me how important the justice centers have been. And I can tell you, across Jamaica, where the restorative justice centers have opened, they have been beacons of hope, beacons of healing. And we want the 18 restorative justice centers to continue to be shining citadel in their communities, where people who face nothing but darkness can come and receive some light of renewal, of enlightenment, so that they can go about their daily lives in peace. A problem in Jamaica. And Augustown reflects a lot of it. A problem of gang violence, problems of violence generally, where instead of talking and discussing and coming to understanding, we believe that violence is the way to solve problems. And we see when there are family problems, dispute over resources, people believe that the way to do it is to contract a killer to solve the problem. We have families who believe that it is violence that can solve the problem, abuses, and in many cases, you see the gangs fighting, and the question is, who has the greater firepower to solve the problems? But I send a message to the gangsters and those who contemplate and want to use violence to solve problems. Violence solves nothing. In fact, violence creates more problems than solutions. Those who have engaged in violence must appreciate that not only are they themselves victims, but they cause greater hurt, pain, and injury to those on whom they inflict that violence. And what we have when violence starts is a cycle of violence. Violence doesn't stop once it is used. As soon as it is used, there's always reprisal, always retaliation, because each side believes that they have to get back at the offender. And I say to those violence producers across Jamaica, you're causing enormous heartaches. You, the violence producers, the heartless, dog-hearted individuals who create so much frustration, so much injury, stop it. Because you, the violence producers, know who you are, and you must appreciate that you solve nothing by the use of violence. You're creating more difficulties, not only for yourself, your family, and your communities. When you're caught, as you certainly will eventually, you are like a lamb. I see you in court. I see you in the prisons. And you always say it is the other side. Always blaming the other side. And one of the problems with violence producers and people in conflict, no one accepts wrongdoing. It's always the other side that is at fault. And that is why restorative justice is so important. Because even if both sides are wrongdoers, restorative justice allows for each to appreciate how their actions create the atmosphere for retaliation or for further conflicts. And why restorative justice must be the means by which we find an alternative path to settle difficulties, conflicts, and disputes. And Kenneth Wilson, who will be in charge at the center here, I'm going to urge him to work closely with the ministers fraternal, with the police, with other stakeholders. And this center must be used to sensitize the whole community on restorative justice and how, when they have difficulties, be it 20 yards from here or 2 miles from here, they can come to the center and talk about it, resolve the problems, rather than engaging the contract killer or engaging the violence producers to hurt the person who you allege have caused you some harm. And I say, and I believe strongly, that there can be peace even though there are conflicts in a community. And I have no doubt that the way to do it is to get the parties together. And I say to you, Kenneth, to the police and the stakeholders in Augustown, the way we're going to get things done is to urge community where you see conflicts emerging, bring it to the attention of Kenneth and others who work here. Bring it to the pastor's attention, who can bring it to the restorative justice facilitators. Because whether it is like a domestic dispute or a neighbor's squabbling, let it come here at this restorative justice center so the parties can settle it rather than settle it and fighting it out on the streets or in the yards. This is a nice center. Let us utilize it to settle domestic disputes. And I say, this is a center where gangs should be allowed to come, visit, and talk over the conflicts that engage them. I can tell you, I know of the experience. The way that the gangs can be dismantled is to get the leaders of these gangs talking. Leaders, they hide. But if we can find the leaders of the gangs in Augustown and across Jamaica to face one another, they can resolve many of the problems that create murder, violence, and criminality across Jamaica. I know, having had that experience in Grand Spain, where we had more than 6 gangs, and right here I understand in Augustown you have more than 6 gangs, and the challenge was, how do you get the leaders to sit down and talk to one another? And I can tell you, in Grand Spain, we met on the gully banks, we met in 100-man prison, we met in GP, because oftentimes they're arrested, and I took it out of my way to go down and see them. I met them at Constant Spring Police Station. And when you meet the gang leader, they can't look at one another. And finally, when we were able to get them to sit in the church vestry, sit in the church hall and face one another, we were able to put in play many programs, football competition, domino competition, all sorts of competition. And the war that we had in Grand Spain 20 years ago no longer exists. And I say to the gangsters across communities and those here in Augustown, when you are engaged in gang conflicts, not only do you cause problems for yourself, but you hurt the community. When you fire shots, children are afraid to go to school. Families duck under beds. People can't walk about on the streets. And the end result is that a community is under siege when you start firing shots all over the place. But when you get peace, you can move about. You can work together. Because If you go in Barbican and Grandspin, no. People move across streets without any difficulties. Life is much better. You can enjoy the parties of each corner. You can go to the dances across the street. People can move and go about their business without fear of violence or retaliation. And I say, in this Restorative Justice Center, let it be the area that will reach out to the gangs across Auguststone, Hermitage, Bedwood Gardens, African Gardens, pull them together so we can find a way to solve these conflicts. And I will say, Kenneth, work with the pastors. Let the pastors work with the gangs. Bring them together. Because once they're apart, all they will talk about is who can deliver greater violence. And it's not working. So let us see if we can pull them together. And I say to you, Augusttown and all Jamaica, we want 2.8 million Jamaicans to fight the violence producers, fight the criminals who are causing havoc and making Jamaica a dangerous place. If 2.8 million of us decide to expose the criminals and tell them, time come, it's time for peace and harmony in Jamaica, then Jamaica can be the land that we want it to be. So I say to the residents of Augusttown, the work has to be done. You have to go out and pull together, work hard, and be a light in your community. Let this place, as I said, be the shining citadel. Let the lights shine here daily. And the work, let us hope that all will work together and peace and harmony can come and be sustained in this community. Bless you, Augusttown.